You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Well, good Monday morning, everybody. I am Glenn the Geek in Ocala, Florida.
And I am Lisa Wysocki. I'm in Ashland City, Tennessee, and you're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for Monday, January 6th, episode 3598 by WERM Flooring. Good morning, Horse World.
You heard that right. It's Monday. The first day of a fabulous week of shows on Horses in the Morning. So saddle up and ride along. We promise to help you get through your week.
Well, considering the weather, we'll do what we can to help you forget about it. Maybe we can do that. You're stuck in the house, you can listen to us.
There you go.
We're here to help you get through the miserable weather that's going on. But today, we're going to learn all about the United Dressage and Jumping Club. I'm going to take a look back at the Romans and their horses in Horses in History, especially the Heavy Calvary units, plus your Equestrian First World Problems. And then in the post-show, Lisa's going to answer the guest questions that we have just setting aside for guests that we get on and want to go, oh, these would be interesting to ask that guest. Lisa's never answered them before, so we're going to ask her those in the post-show. But Jamie's heading to Monty's for the week. She was supposed to fly out yesterday, and there was a little storm that happened that caused her flight to be canceled, so she's trying to get there today. She'll be back here on Wednesday and Friday, either from Monty's or home, one of the two. And we are thinking about everyone's dealing with the storm. I'm seeing all my Lexington friends. They got, 8 inches of snow and then an inch of ice on top, so that's fun.
Totally fun.
And the traffic, did you see some of the pictures of the roads?
Glenn, we've all been there, you
Yes.
know, and
Yes.
I just felt so sorry for everybody, you know. And,
Kansas
and
City?
you don't,
Ugh.
oh, I know. And, you know, you don't want to go out, but sometimes you just have to. And it just looked horrible.
I think some of those people are still on that road in Kansas City. I mean, the traffic was
Probably.
stopped for forever. I
Probably.
saw a couple Instagram posts from truckers who were out trying to walk on it. I mean, it was on the highway. Everybody was just stopped sitting there. And you couldn't even walk on the road. I mean, it was...
Now, Glenn, I was giving a clinic in Birmingham, Alabama, and in Alabama, I got stopped for 8 hours with a snowstorm overnight on the freeway. And so I was thinking about that when I was looking at all these pictures, because you get to know your neighbors really well, and you hope that somebody next to you has an RV camper that has a bathroom.
Well, that, and you hope you don't run out of gas, or else you're going to freeze.
Well, that, and it's going to be a mess getting your car off the road when it does clear up.
And it seems like every time Jennifer and I have been stopped in a big, huge traffic jam the last hours, we're always on between a quarter and E.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. We have to turn off the car.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully those people all make it through okay.
We're thinking about all you guys up there in the winter weather. I'm sure that there's some equestrian. I'm sure all the Equestrian First World Problems were weather related today. We'll find out.
I'm sure. We'll take a look.
Well, we lost a couple of horse people over the weekend that passed, and I wanted to mention them. Muffy Seaton. Muffy was a well-known driver, and her accomplishments could fill pages. We had her on the driving show a number of times. She was a friend, a mentor, a coach, a judge, good friend of Wendy's. She was one of those people that everyone in the driving knew because she was always there for everyone. Wendy and I actually stayed with her and her husband Doug many years ago for a carriage drive in Aiken. I remember we went up with one of Wendy's horses in the carriage, and it was for the American Driving Association had their meeting there, and we had a big carriage drive, 40 carriages driving through the center of Aiken, which is beautiful anyway.
Oh, I bet that was awesome.
But we stayed at Muffy's farm and had a great time there. They cooked for us. I just remember that so well. So our best to all of her family and to all the driving community. Also, speaking of Aiken, same place. Also, Karen Pryor, the founder of Clicker Training and the woman who blazed trails for basically the compassionate training of animals before Shauna Koresh, she died at the age of 92. She was doing dolphin training in the 1960s and was innovative in bringing clickers into dolphin training. And she brought that to dogs and to zoos worldwide. She developed techniques also for teaching people with autism. And she also developed techniques for surgeons to help them learn skills when doing surgeries.
Wow.
to create less errors in the operating room. She wrote a ton of books about clicker training and other things about nonviolent training. She was right in there in the Monty crew, right? She was in that same thought process. KarenWPryor.com is where her books are all listed, but she's well known in that community, and she obviously will be missed, and our best to all of her connections as well. So 2 pioneers really in
Absolutely.
in the horse world that are no longer with us, and our thoughts are with the families. All right, let's do some daily Whinnies. Believe it or not one auditor birthday today.
Wow.
I know, it's a rare event. It doesn't happen too often. I wanted to give my daily Winnie to Chris Kermitzos. He's been on the show a number of times. He is the founder of PodFest. That's the big conference that I'm going to next week, actually.
Yes.
It'll be my 10th PodFest. And we will have shows next week. Jamie's getting surgery, and I'm going to PodFest, but Ashley's going to run the show next week.
And I'm going to be on with Ashley next Wednesday.
Oh, good. Yeah, you
Yeah.
two have never been on together. She's a lot of fun.
But we're going to tear it up. I
Yeah,
tell
you guys are going to have fun. That will be. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's Chris. Chris has been nominated and will be inducted during PodFest next week into the Podcast Hall of Fame, and rightly so. He's organized PodFest, and he's that kind of guy, and everybody knows that one guy in business who is excellent at introducing people to each other.
Mm-hmm.
He's that guy. And he's one of the first people I met in Florida when we moved here in the podcasting world. I didn't even know there were other people doing podcasts, to be honest. I thought I was the only one out there doing it. For a while I was, but there weren't too many of us at the beginning. But I met Chris, and he had this little organization called the Florida Podcasting Association, and they had meetings in Tampa, and I went down to one of the meetings 10 years ago. And that's where I got to know Chris and Katie. Katie, you've heard on the show a number of times, his wife. And I'm so excited that he's being inducted into Podcast Hall of Fame. And there's a couple of other my friends in podcasting that are being inducted as well. So congratulations to Chris.
That is awesome. And Glenn, you probably don't know this, but I'm on Chris's email list. And so I get all of his emails. I do. And I have learned so much just from reading the emails.
Yeah, they do put out a great email. PodFest does. And I read it every time it comes in because there is good information in there. And the guy who runs that is out of Texas, and Larry, and he's a real AI expert. He speaks all over the country on AI. He was in early when it first started. So, I listen to him too because I follow him for what we can do using AI to help us out.
Yeah.
And there's so much now that it's getting better and better all the time. Matter of fact, this whole show is being done by AI. Lisa and I aren't here. It's time for your AI Daily Winnie.
There we go. So my daily win goes to Jeff and Marcia Alsop of Cross Plains, Tennessee. So they, for the last, Glenn, I think 4 years, have donated 60 round bales to Colby's Army every year.
Wow.
I know. He's a farmer up there and just has more hay than his cows can eat. And it's actually really good hay. And I'm just so grateful to them. I mean, it's $7,000 to $9,000 worth of hay that we get from them every year. Wow. And they're just the nicest people. And I just wanted to, they'll never hear this, but I just wanted to give them a shout out because they're just super, super cool human beings.
Well, it just goes to show there are those human beings still around, aren't there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they don't have to do that. I mean,
no, they're super nice, and I just adore them, and it's just, they've just been a real blessing to us, and our horses really appreciate it too.
Yeah. Speaking of your horses, did you get the weather?
Oh yeah, but not
now,
like other people.
Lisa's in northern Tennessee, right? Almost in Kentucky, right?
Almost, yeah. Yeah, so we got, Glenn, in the last 24 hours, we've had rain and torrential rain and sleet and thunder sleet and hail and ice and wind and snow.
Oh, good. You had it all in one day.
We had it all.
You just were missing a tornado
hours.
And you'd be in good shape, right?
Exactly. But I will say we haven't had a lot of any of it. So we had maybe, 2 inches of rain, and we have a dusting of snow, and we have a little bit of ice, So the horses are, not wanting to go out, but they're standing under their run-ins and their covered areas. But
in a couple of days.
Yeah. And, we had some to begin with, so that's going to help.
I'll tell you what, we don't miss mud living in Florida. We don't miss that at all.
No. And, you know, Glenn, we put gutters on the barn a couple of years ago, and that has helped a lot. But I'm still appalled at the amount of mud that's still there.
I can't imagine. Ugh. And you're in kind of a fertile place too. I mean,
yeah.
your ground is really, really nice soil, actually. But,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So it gets really muddy, but really only in the paddock. You know, we have drainage issues here, like a lot of people do, and
Well, you
we've
have a
worked on
stream
it.
that runs the edge of the property that floods on a
We
regular
do.
basis.
Exactly. Yes. So you know, we get water regularly.
and for anybody who doesn't know where Colby's Army is, the stream wraps around her property. So
Yes, kind of in a U shape.
Yeah.
So
which is
so
perfect
yeah,
for
so it's
flooding.
everywhere. Plus, we get a lot of water off the hill because the side that we don't have the stream, we have these ginormous hills, and we have five underground streams that come down, and then all the water washes off the hill and over the driveway, and so it's fun. We knew this, you know, before we bought it. We knew this, but the rest of the properties,
Lisa doesn't know
amazing.
very many places, and that's why
I know.
she can't
Yeah.
get out. It's like,
Exactly.
all right, now I haven't had a chance to ask you. For new listeners, Lisa has a series of books, the Cat and Wright books, and they're murder mysteries, and they've been opted for TV. Where are we at? I haven't gotten an update lately.
Well, we have a filming location. We're going to be filming in Lexington.
Kentucky.
So Lexington, Kentucky. Yes.
Wow.
So you know, when you get involved with the production companies, they go and see what state or what city has the
biggest
best
tax
incentives.
breaks.
Exactly. Yes, that's what they're looking at. You know, and what has the best resources for what you need. So obviously we need horses in this, and so Lexington has a plethora of horses that are even not thoroughbred. So that's good. They've got a lot of different horse locations. They have everything that we need. So we've already identified a couple of different locations. We've identified some horse sources, and
because you need more walking horses, gaited horses, things like that. Were in your books, right?
Well, we do. Well, my protagonist is an Appaloosa horse trainer.
Yeah.
So you know, we need like a roan quarter horse or you know, an Appaloosa or you know, something like that. And or a series of a few of those. And so we've got a few sources for those, and everybody seems amenable. And so I'm going to be making a trip to Lexington after the snow goes away.
When the snow melts.
with one of the producers, and we're going to be just doing some location scouting. We don't have any news on casting yet.
They haven't put out the casting calls yet.
They have not, and we don't have any like dates or anything, but you know, we have like a treatment, and so we're moving forward. It's just, you know, it takes forever.
So who writes the scripts?
It's not me. Not me. They've hired somebody to do that, and I've met with her, and she seems to.
Does she know anything about horses?
Yeah, she does
Oh,
a little.
good.
Yeah. And so I've made a few tweaks, and she's called me, you know, some. So we're moving forward. It's just slower, but the other really cool thing is we are going to be having some open filming days where people can come watch.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know when or what that will look like or where it will be, but you know, I think that'll be, you know, kind of fun. So yeah. So
'cause we have a lot of listeners in that area, so.
Well, that's what
cool.
I thought. You know,
Yeah.
I thought, fine, let's or we could do some meetups or something maybe. So with some of the cast, I don't know. We'll just have to see, you know, kind of how it looks.
Very cool.
But yeah.
Hey, we'll have to start a podcast about the show. You know, one of those fan podcasts.
Yes.
I don't know
would
that
be
you'll
fun.
be allowed to be in it though, because
I don't know. Don't know. You know.
because if we complain about the fake Whinnies,
Oh.
you know, you can't be there for that, right? When we're complaining about the fake Whinnies.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
should
we
I just
can.
make a big banner to hang at the farm where you're filming that
There you
says
go.
no fake Whinnies? Thank you very
fake
much.
Whinnies. Yes. So we have talked about that. You know, it's like, you know, I'm right there with the no fake Whinnies, and you can complain to me all you want because I'm right there with
Okay,
everybody
good.
else.
Good. And then I did want to mention WERM flooring. That obviously, you know, we've talked a lot about how WERM flooring can do your trailer floor, but they also can do trailer and RV roofs. Leaky roofs are a very common problem in horse trailers, RVs, living quarters, all of those. Where there's holes out of the roof for pipes and things, there's leaks. And WERM flooring does a silicone-based coating to create a barrier against heat and wet. It seals your roof and stops leaks before they start. It reflects back also 90% of those nasty UV rays. Ours is aluminum on our living quarters trailer.
Oh,
so
wow.
that heats up really good.
I bet.
Keeping your trailer or barn up to 60 degrees cooler on a blistering day. They can also do barn roofs too, or shed roofs. So ditch the duct tape into buckets. Invest in long-term peace of mind with Seal and Chill. It's applied by pros for a flawless finish, and it's only $7.50 per square foot. That's a steal for a cooler, drier, happier RV or trailer, which means happier horses and happier people. Go to WERM, that's WERM flooring.com to find a dealer near you. And WERM stands for We Eliminate Rubber Mats. Now, you had mentioned something about fixing fences.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that, isn't it always the case that you have to fix the fence in the worst weather? It's
Yes.
either blistering hot or it's pouring rain or there's ice everywhere.
Yes.
So we have two horses. Well, we have more than two horses, but we have one horse who is a draft cross who likes to lean on the fence, and we have an electric wire that goes around, and he doesn't care if he gets shocked, Glenn. He doesn't care.
Yeah, we had a draft horse that way too.
Yeah, he'll just lean on it, and we've got the T-posts, and because of the flooding, so we don't want to have the wooden post and rail flooding because, fencing, because then it would all go down. So we can fix the T-post fencing. So he like regularly has been getting out. So we have run another fence on the inside of the fence. So now we have two lines of fencing. And so he doesn't mind he minds getting shocked on his legs, Glenn, but not on his chest. So he now is not getting out. But we have a new horse who is a retired hunter. He's an Oldenburg, and now he jumps over the fence.
Oh, jeez.
And he doesn't mind if he's been jumping, at a pretty big level. He's only 10. And so he can jump the two fences. And so I'm just...
So what are you doing about that?
He doesn't go anywhere, so that's the good thing. And you can just walk right up to him. But it's like, I don't know what to do.
We had one, too. When we bought him, he was a big gray horse. And when we bought him, he was a jumper, and I don't know why we bought him, to be honest. But they told us he won't stay in anything. We have to put him in the indoor because that's the only way he doesn't get out. And sure enough, he didn't stay in anything. He just hopped from field to field, visiting whoever he wanted to.
Well, so this horse, so we have a paddock, Glenn, and at the end of the paddock, there's a gate that goes out into the pasture. So 2 days ago, the other horses were just to the right of the paddock, and our jumper, Andre, rather than walk out the gate, hopped over the fence between the paddock and the pasture because it was more convenient.
There you go.
And it's like 4.5 feet high. I mean, it's a taller, fence. If anybody has any ideas, let me know.
Yeah. We always worried about that too when you get a lot of snow, is to just walk over the snow out.
Oh yeah. When I was growing up in Minnesota, we had that problem. Yeah, the snow would be covering the fence, and the horses just walk out.
Just leave.
Yeah. So if anybody has any ideas, I'm perplexed at this point.
Shock collar? Do they make those for horses?
Ooh.
I don't think they do.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And you probably wouldn't care anyway.
I was just kidding, people. Send your hate mail to Jennifer at horseradionetwork.com. I was just kidding. Although we've all wanted to do that at a time or two, let's be honest.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for some horses in history, which I still have not made a bumper for after all these years. But today, I was watching the TV series. I watched a couple episodes. I keep trying to get into it, and I keep bailing. It was called Rome. It was the TV series that was called Rome, and it was about Rome, obviously, and all of the various things of Rome, and the emperors and all that stuff. And I got into it, and then after about 4 episodes, I went, it's the same stuff every episode. So I bailed. But it got me thinking, because I had horses in it. It got me thinking about the ancient Romans and their horses. And of course, we all see about chariots and things like that, which I still haven't driven one. I still want to do that at some point. But I got to thinking, what breeds of horses did Romans like? What did they use? Right. In battle, or for their driving horses, or for whatever. And apparently, we do have some history from Rome, because some of it was written down. And they also have done a lot of archaeological digs that, have discovered a lot of this stuff. Like the saddles I'm going to talk about were discovered during archaeological digs. Right. But we also have some written down. There were some Romans that actually took time to write things down. So that helped. And they really apparently didn't discriminate much when it came to breeds of horses. They didn't really care. They didn't really care about breeds. They cared about how good were they, how fast were they, how much stamina did they have. That's what they cared about. They cared about, whether the brain was any good, because you got to think about, when they were using horses, whether it was for chariots or in battle, they had to have, sensible horses. because a lot coming at you at the time.
Oh, yeah.
We often think about, and they often show in movies, they show the chariots. And, you think about the chariots riding into battle. But apparently that didn't happen for very long, like very few years were they using chariots in battle. When in the early Republic...
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought
I didn't
that
either.
went on for a long time.
In the early Roman Republic, chariots were used in some battle contexts, but they determined that they really got in the way and they were too much of a problem. Anybody who's driven a carriage knows that you add an extra layer of problem when you have a carriage, because, you flip the carriage, you're in trouble. You can't get out real easy. It was.
And weren't they standing up when they were driving?
They were standing up. Yeah, the chariots were standing up, and that's so they could, usually your driver was on the left side, and you would have one or two other soldiers on the right because they would have their sword hands open, or they would be archers in the chariots too.
Yeah.
But they didn't use them for very long. They were mostly used for ceremonies, and in the Colosseum and things like that is where they would use the chariots. So what they determined was that the heavy cavalry, and they called them heavy cavalry, wasn't because the horses were heavy. It was because the riders were heavy. They had their armor on and their chainmail and all that stuff, and it was just heavy.
Right.
So they called it the heavy cavalry. That's what
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, they were large, and they did use drafty types. Now, horses back then were not draft horses back then were not as big as they are now.
Right.
They didn't have 19-hand draft horses.
Yeah.
They were using 15, 16-hand because part of the problem was getting on these horses.
Well, and don't you think that the people were smaller too?
Yeah, people were smaller, but they didn't have stirrups back then. Stirrups didn't come around till the Middle Ages. So they had to get on without stirrups. A lot of their training, from what I read, was getting on and off the horse. Because
I bet.
Their stirrups, and plus the saddle we're going to talk about in a minute, hindered getting on and off the horse quickly too.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that in a minute. But they used a lot of horses in the heavy cavalry from Spain, from the Iberian Peninsula, as it was known back then, because they were basically the Andalusian. They were the ancestors of the modern Andalusian breed is what they used. They were fast, they were quick, they were agile, but they were also heavy enough. And they were known for their endurance, because you have to remember that most of their time wasn't spent fighting. It was spent riding for days and months on end to get to where you were going to have the battle.
Right, right.
Because the Roman territory was spread out all through Europe, and into Asia. So it was a huge territory, and it would take them a month to 2 months sometimes just to get there. And then they would have a day of battle. So now your horse is ridden for 2 months every day. And now, it has to be expected to fight.
And so you have to wonder, how did they feed these horses too along the way?
Great caravans. And the caravans were pulled by draftier types. The early draft horses, not necessarily the breeds we have today. But yeah, and apparently there were Lusitanian cavalry were considered some of the finest mounted troops in the world. Huh. Because they were trained horsemen as well. And a typical cavalry unit consisted of 500 to 1,000 horses. So imagine that running at you in the field.
I can't.
Now, the saddles were interesting, and this they have found through archaeological digs, because remember, they didn't have stirrups. So they had to stay on the horse while fighting, while riding for days on end, while, doing all of that. And one of the distinctive things about the Roman saddle is it had 4 horns. Do you know how a side saddle has the horn in the front that kind of wraps around your leg?
Yep.
And then kind of has sort of one in the back. And that's the way this was. It had 2 horns in the front that wrapped around your legs. So you tuck your legs under them. And then it kind of had 2 in the back that would hold you up, basically, and hold you in the saddle. So I'll put a picture of it in our show notes. You can see that at least at the top.
Yeah.
So that they acted as supports, and they just helped you kind of stay balanced in your saddle too while you were in battle, because you were leaning over a lot. And you could tuck your leg under there and not have to worry about falling off the saddle or getting pulled off the saddle.
Right.
Was the other thing. They would grab you and pull you off.
Well, and I imagine you're ducking and you're leaning, to avoid getting hit by things. So that would be their stability, I guess.
You would think that the riders back then probably were more balanced than we are, because
probably they would have to be. Yeah.
Now, these saddles, you see the picture of them there. I mean, I don't know. That would be hard to get in and out of.
Yes, yeah.
From what I read, a lot of their basic training when they first, started training for the cavalry was getting on and off the horse.
Right.
They would practice that 1,000 times because, again, in battle too, you had to be able to get on quickly and get off quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So they would practice. That was their first training that they did. And apparently there was a whole manuscript that they found that was of the training of the cavalry units and how they did
Really?
that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Now, there was some argument about whether the saddles had a frame or not. They found some that were frameless, no treeless. And then they found some that had a wooden frame. So they're not sure why some did and some didn't. There's no real consensus on that.
We have framed and frameless saddles now.
That's true.
Maybe there were just different kinds of saddles.
It's true. And probably ridden by different people, for different reasons, right?
Probably. And so I wonder, did they have any thought to whether or not the saddle fit the horse?
Didn't say anything about that. Although the Romans were fairly sophisticated when it came to horses.
They were. Yeah.
So they invented a lot of the stuff that we do now. And they were fairly sophisticated about that. They used similar girth strapping for these saddles that you would see in a Western saddle today.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the girth strapping that they did. They also have found breast straps and cruppers.
Wow.
Because again, you're fighting in a battle, you have the saddle sliding forward, doesn't help either. So,
no.
I can see where they would, or back, either direction. So I can see why they were using breast straps and cruppers.
Really, your saddle, your life depended on your saddle.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that is true. Now, they stuffed them with things like, some of them were stuffed with straw, some were stuffed with wool, some were stuffed with cloth. It's kind of similar to today, actually. There apparently was one writing that said they were made for the comfort of it was something like this. They were made for the comfort of the human, but they weren't comfortable.
I'm looking at this picture, Glenn. This saddle does not look comfortable.
Does not look like there's a severe amount of foam in there. No memory foam in that seat.
No. Yeah. Wow.
They did have large farms, large breeding centers, and a lot of those, because they conquered so many territories, they would have localized breeding centers. Mm-hmm. And the Roman stud farms ranged from small localized operation to large-scale facilities. One farm is claimed to have had 5,000 horses.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and if you're just a unit's 500 to 1,000, they had units all over the world. So
well, that's true.
They had a ton plus you used horses for everything back then, from transportation to hauling stuff to the caravans of goods and all of that. So you would have to have these large breeding farms.
Now they had breeding farms. So did they breed for certain characteristics? Did they have a plan?
That's the difference from today. They didn't breed for breed. They didn't care about breeds, right? They cared about the characteristics is what they bred for. Stamina, guts, their brain. They bred for those things, not. There was no reference to we liked a certain breed. They bred for specific traits.
And I wonder if back then there were even breeds, so to speak.
That's a good question. I don't know that. There was probably not a breed registry.
No.
There were no DNA samples done.
Yeah, and there were probably certain types. There were probably smaller, thinner horses and bigger drafted horses.
They said there were basically three types. You would have your carriage horses, which were like carriage horses today, tend to be a little leaner, right, and have stamina for pulling. They would have their heavy horses, which were the ones they used in battle. And then they would have their chariot horses, which are the super fast horses.
Oh, got it.
And then they would have their everyday draft horses that were pulling loads. So they would have multiple types of horses, but not necessarily breeds, which answered the question I started out with, was there breed? Was there a breed back then?
Yeah.
And apparently that's something that we made up later on in time. I'll have to look that up sometime too and find out when all of these breed registries started to come into effect.
Yeah, I think the Jockey Club in England, I think that started sometime in the 1700s.
Yeah, there you go. We'll have to look at that.
I could be wrong.
Next Horses in History.
There you go.
They did spend a lot of time training for desensitization. And this was in one of the writings, too. They were exposed to loud noises, bright flags, weapons, obviously, banging, crashing, noise. You had to consider that the volume if you're in a battle back then with 1,000 horses and 10,000 men, the noise must have been incredible.
Horrible.
Yeah. And they were trained to move and fight while wearing the armor. That's one of the things they trained them for. The piafs and passages and all that stuff came from battle. Right. That's where that's where they trained them for that. They were also they had to leg them up, as we would say in eventing, because they were trained for long campaigns. They had to ride for long distances. Mm-hmm. They did do mock battles where they would train the horses with real combat scenarios. And what they would have them do is they would have them ride into padded or wooden targets like the football players do today with their dummies. Yeah. They did the same kind of thing with the horses. They ran them into these targets and padded targets and things like that to impact striking the enemy in long lines. Because remember, they lined up with shields back then a lot of times. Yeah. So they had to ride through these shield lines, and they'd either ride in one big long line or they would ride in wedges in diamond shapes. Okay. And then, they would, if you're in a diamond shape, I want to be the guy in the back, not the guy in the very front, because it doesn't seem like he's going to do very well. I don't think so. No. Maybe you draw straws for that, or, I don't know how you get picked for that. I don't know. Of course, javelin throwing today, which is still done today, right, in the Olympics, what came from back then, because they used long spears. And even the riders used long spears. So they did a lot of javelin practice. And they would either use it as the jousts, like you see in jousts, as the jousters would, where they would strike with it while holding it, or they'd throw them. And from what I read, a lot they had javelin units that they would take one or two javelins with them. They would ride as close as they could, throw their javelins, turn around, book it toward home, grab another set, and back again. So they were more hitting the outside edges of the units.
So you'd have to think, Glenn, that you just have to think that the horses were really fit, but the people had to be really fit too.
It did mention that. And they said they were naturally fit because they rode horses all day, every day anyway. True. They were riders, So we think about it in today's term, we're not riders, as they were back then. We're not riders. They were, to get anywhere, you rode 10 miles. So, they were used to it a lot more than we were. And, they started from the time they were young. Everybody rode. It wasn't just some people.
Well, you had to.
Yeah, if you were of any status and had a horse, you rode.
Yeah. And you have to think, too, that the horses probably were more like cars in that they were disposable. If they're breeding at that volume, and you have to think that the casualty of the horses in battle must have been great.
Yes, and I think they did lose a lot, which is why the breeding programs, right?
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Now, they did have their favorite horses. Caligula had a horse that he tried to make a senator. Yes. I talked about that in past Horses in History, and he built a whole palace for the horse. So they did have their favorite horses. And you would think you would. I mean, it's your lifeblood, right? So
of course, yeah.
You're going to have horses that you want to have forever and not lose, right?
Well, and you'd think, too, that you would want to have a horse that you knew and trusted and going into battle.
Yeah, because your life depended on it. Literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Kind of the same way today, riding, actually. Your life does kind of depend.
It is.
All right. Well, that's Horses in History. We hope you enjoyed a little bit about the Romans and their weird saddle. You can address your horse's unique weight needs and help optimize their overall well-being with research-proven Purina animal nutrition feeds. I doubt they had Purina delivering to their farms
Probably not.
Designed by passionate equine nutritionists, partner with Purina to nourish your horse to their optimal body condition. Explore weight management resources for your horse today. Can be found at purinamills.com/feed-finder. That's purinamills.com/feed-finder. I will say this. I read in one of the texts, it did talk about they had people that specialized in animal, they called it something else, like animal health. They were in charge of feeding and making sure the animals stayed healthy and in charge of their weight management and things like that. So they did have people that did that. So. Well,
and as you said, Glenn, they were very advanced for that era, and they knew that those horses meant so much to them. I mean, it was their battle, it was their livelihood, so it makes sense to take care of them.
Yeah. So early Purina days. I don't think Purina's been quite around that long. It seems like they have.
Probably not.
All right, let's get to our guest. His name is David Reichert. He's going to talk about the United Dressage and Jumping Club. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. I'm anxious to find out.
David, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
So tell us about how the United Dressage and Jumping Club got started.
The United Dressage and Jumping Club is an organization that runs dressage and jumping shows at the same time, at the same venues. And it got started because we're not very happy with the scene the way it is. And we figured it needs changing. And we weren't able to.
What aren't you happy about with the way it is?
Well, we aren't happy about, first of all, the dressage part. We need a lot more kids and we need a lot more focus on the low-level riding in dressage in order to do a real change and get the quality of riding better. And we also don't like the 70, 80, 90 centimeter racing through jumping courses. So these are our biggest concerns in our opinion. Beginners and kids at this level need to learn how to ride first. They need to learn how to balance their horses, how to find rhythm in a jumping course, how to effectively use their seats, and that's not being done in 70 centimeter racing. So at UDJC, all jumping classes below 85 centimeters are being judged.
And, and the other big thing that we've talked about 100 times in this show is cost. People are just being cost out of showing.
Yes, that is probably even the biggest concern we have. The cost have to go down dramatically. We lose so much talent. We lose so many kids due to the high cost of showing. It's almost impossible for professionals or young professionals to develop horses because the cost is just outrageous.
I mean, when you go to a show now, you do an event, a lower level event. It's you're going to be $500 to $1,000 by the time you're done, just because of all the mandatory costs.
Yes, at least. So we try to cut all these costs like office fees and nomination fees for higher jumping courses and COVID fees and, you name them, all those bunch of fees, we cut them out. So showing with UDJC, you just have your class fees. We also pay money for almost every prize money for almost every class. The super, super low classes, we don't have any prize money, but then starting at 70 centimeter jumping and starting at even training level dressage, we pay prize money in every single class. And yeah, we just try to make that more interesting for the competitors.
Now, you're brand new. How are you going to be able to afford to do all of this then?
Well, we try to work with a lot of volunteers. There are actually a lot of people that want to have changes and they're very engaged in UDJC. And also we try to just, cut out a lot of unnecessary things. You don't need another VIP area. You don't need a million flowers everywhere and all that stuff. So by cutting that out, the show bill can go down dramatically.
And you can do, hold on one second, Lisa. So if I'm going to one of your shows, you have dressage and jumping at the same show. I can do both with the same horse. I can bring different horses. I can mix and match.
Yes, exactly. You can do both with the same horse. You can do several disciplines with different horses, whatever you want to do. We have divisions. So our division system looks a little bit different. I know everybody in the US is used to having divisions. We have them too, but to us, the individual class counts a little bit more. But then, so every class we offer at the weekend now, we have our first show. We have 10 jumping classes and 10 dressage classes each day, Saturday and Sunday. Each class is a class on its own with an award ceremony, with a ranking, of course, with ribbons and prize money. But then we have divisions that combine dressage and jumping. So if somebody shows dressage and jumping at a specific level, their class ranking pretty much also goes into a division score. So we don't have pure dressage and pure jumping divisions. We have classes. But then we want to, because we want to tell the beginners and we want to tell the kids, hey, if you want these big division ribbons, you got to do dressage and jumping. So, just trying to get the beginners and the kids more into dressage classes. That's a big deal.
Lisa?
That's amazing. I'm just listening and I'm so excited. I can't tell you. I want this here in Tennessee. So and everywhere. So you said you've been talking with a lot of people, and I'm wondering how quickly you think you can expand to other areas, because I know you're basically in Texas right now.
Yes, hopefully quickly. So UDJC got created pretty much for the Houston area because that was our biggest concern. We have a big riding school here in Texas or in Houston with 3 locations. We have hundreds of kids that ride once or twice a week. But then we also have a big show team, full training kits with their own horses that go to a lot of shows. And the idea was to just do something pretty much, technically for our kids or for the Houston area. And we created UDJC. We uploaded the first video, and all of a sudden everything blew up. So that video really went through the roof, and we have hundreds of people that emailed us and called us and said, hey, we want to be part of this from all over the country. We want to be part of this. What can we do to help? What can we do to run a show? We have a lot of show organizers who want to put their schooling show circuits under the UDJC umbrella. We even have show organizers who want to switch from USEF to UDJC. So, and we didn't expect that. So now, I'm on the phone for 18 hours every day in the last probably 6 or 8 weeks, talking to a lot of people. So we're very confident that we can bring UDJC as soon as possible all over the country. We have Florida's probably going to be our first destination. Florida's probably going to start in spring. And we have a couple other states lined up already that are going to start relatively soon.
This is perfect for where I live in Ocala, David. This is perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you mentioned, David, too, that the division system is different, but are the class structure, is that the same or is that different too?
No, the class structures are different. So like I said, everything below 85, 90 centimeter is being judged on the jumping side. So there are no racing classes in these lower levels. At the higher levels, we have a bunch of variety, of course. At the higher levels, we have jump-off classes, we have joker classes, we have pure time classes, all that stuff. But everything below 85, 90 centimeter is always judged. And then when it comes to dressage, it's very different too, because one of the biggest problems dressage has is that everybody's allowed to ride whatever they want. So there's no qualification mode whatsoever. And that is not good for the welfare of the horse, but it's also not good for the quality of showing, because a lot of people just show above what they should be showing quality-wise or rideability-wise. So we have regular dressage tests. They're called benchmark tests. They go technically from training level all the way up to 4th level. And just like USDF, you have 3 different benchmark tests per level. You have to qualify those. So if you want to ride a 3rd level benchmark test, you have to qualify with scores in a 2nd level benchmark test. So you technically have to climb up the ladder all the way from training level. We created a 2nd tier pretty much though of dressage tests, because of course there are 4th level riders, FEI riders, professionals who want to come to UDJC shows, and we didn't want to tell them, oh, by the way, you have to start riding training level here in order to qualify. So we created a 2nd tier. They're called ability classes. In ability classes, the quality of the horse does not matter. So the rideability of the horse matters and the quality of riding. So it's being judged on the rider and the rideability of the horse. And there's no qualification for ability classes. So if you think you're a 3rd level rider,
$150,000 horse?
You don't need a $150,000 horse. If you're a good rider and you have a very well-ridden, thoroughbred or a very well-ridden appendix or whatsoever, and the horse is doing all the movements, that it's all correct, then you can be very successful at even at high levels in ability classes, because the quality is not being judged. Impulsion is not being judged. The gaits are not being judged. So it's the rideability and how well do you ride. And there's no qualification. So if you think you are a 3rd level rider, you can come into an ability class and ride 3rd level. The ability classes look different though. You have in lower levels 4 riders and in higher levels 3 riders in the ring at the same time. So it looks a little bit like a lesson or a clinic from the outside. The judges are standing outside of the arena and give the riders level specific commands. So let's stay in 3rd level. The judges stand outside and say, hey, I want to see some shoulder ins. I want to see some half passes. I want to see some flying changes. And then the riders ride all these movements like in a lesson or a clinic. We want the atmosphere to be a lot looser and cooler than in those, regular dressage tests. So if you need to walk for 10 seconds, if you need a little break, well, walk for 10 seconds. It's fine. So after the free part, after the level specific movements that the judges were calling in, the judges bring everybody together and give everybody a minute or about a minute of feedback. So the judge will tell you, hey, I really liked your shoulder ins, I really liked your half passes, but your flying changes were a little off timing or something like that. Why don't you try this or that next time in order to make it better? So everybody gets some good feedback from the judges. And after the free part and after the little evaluation or feedback part, everybody writes a small pattern individually. So that's the same pattern for everybody. It's not like a 5-6 minute dressage test. It's just like a minute and a half with the main movements out of each level. So you would canter down the center line. You would ride a half pass to the left, a flying change, a medium canter, go to trot, ride a half pass to the right and a shoulder in and a medium trot. And then your pattern is done. That's being judged. The free part is being judged, and that combined is your total score. The interesting part about that is by having 3 good scores in ability classes, you can cross-qualify for the benchmark level. So if you prove that you're a 3rd level rider by having good scores in ability classes, and you don't want to climb up the ladder in benchmark, you automatically cross-qualify into 3rd level benchmark. I know it sounds very complicated, but it's a very cool system once you get used to it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the feedback is so important, particularly with our younger riders, but even with more advanced riders as well. It's good always to have another set of eyes on you and new ideas. So that's amazing.
And also for jumping, one of our rules is whenever there's anything being judged, you get feedback. So also the jumping lower level riders who are being judged in their style classes get feedback from the judge right away. So when they leave the arena and the next rider comes in, the judge is commenting on their ride, giving them some feedback. There's always feedback.
I love this idea. I think and I love the fact that you're out there, that somebody was out. This is what it took. Everybody's been complaining about the associations for years, right? We're all good at that. We're all good at complaining, but you're actually doing something. So good for you. And I know you jumped into this, you jumped in the shallow end, and the deep end basically flooded you with a great big wave. And now you're going to have to ride the wave for a while, which, by the way, I've started organizations and things, and you have a road ahead of you. It's going to go quicker, and you're going to have to control the growth, which is going to be your hardest thing, I think, over the next year. Yeah.
There's probably going to be a lot of challenges that we don't even know of yet, but we're ready to tackle it.
Well, good for you. And that's the kind of you're the kind of person it takes to do this. But this is what needed done. I think Lisa will agree with me there. This needed done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need to make it affordable. We need to make it fun. And teenagers they're not going to do it if it ain't fun. And if it's a pain and they don't have the money and they're constantly worried about that, and mom and dad are under pressure, that just makes home life not fun.
Well, and this is where we lose a lot of our people. We lose them as teenagers, and this is something that might keep them in the sport a little longer.
Yeah, and we need to raise the quality of riding. We need to create a path. This is something that we realized with the show system. The show system pretty much punishes you for developing the kids and the beginners in the correct way. Because so look, somebody's coming to our riding school and they with a 7-year-old. We start them at 2, by the way. But let's say, a mom comes with a 7-year-old and they say, hey, how long does it take for my kid to be successful at shows? Everybody knows that question. And, there's a million answers to that. But typically we tell them it takes 1.5 years or 2 years until when they ride once or twice a week. It takes you 1.5 years, 2 years until you can walk, trot, canter and go over some little X-rails. Oh, and then we can go to the show? No. Then, you get a horse, you ride 5 days a week, something like that. It takes you another year until you're able to ride 70 centimeter courses and go to a show. Oh, and then we can be successful? No. Then you ride another 3 years, slow, organized, well, learn how to ride, blah, 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 until you're ready to be successful. So it's going to take, at least in our program, because we don't allow them to race in 70 centimeters. So they're not going to be successful. We have we have kids riding beautifully, but they're never successful, of course, in these low levels because we don't allow them to race. So it takes pretty much 6 years if you want to develop it correctly.
No
it takes about 6 years. Yeah, no parent wants to hear that. Obviously not. And so you're not being rewarded for doing the right thing in the system how it is at the moment. So we have our lowest jumping class is a 40 centimeter X-rail class, and the kids ride a little dressage equitation. So there's 4 kids in the arena at the same time. They ride a little bit, 5-6 minutes of walk, trot, canter, and a little bit of 2-point that's being judged. And then they ride 4 cross rails from the trot, and that's being judged too. So the kids can go to shows earlier. They don't have to ride the Grand Prix course from Saturday night on Sunday morning at 70 centimeters height. This is hard to ride for a kid. They go to their first show and they have to ride these kind of courses. So, we let them ride 40 centimeter X-rail classes being judged and with a little dressage equitation, so they can be successful right away for doing the right thing after maybe 2 years of riding or so. So we lower the entry barrier a lot, and we make it easier for professionals. We give them a platform to do the right thing successfully. You know what I mean? You don't have to do the wrong thing. Yeah.
It's not going to change unless there is an option, right? If there's no option, it will never change. So
exactly.
Good for you.
Right now, those professionals are in a pickle pretty much, because they say, well, we have to send these kids to the show. They kind of have to be successful. Otherwise, they don't want to keep going. But by making them successful at the low-level shows at the moment, or the lower classes at the shows at the moment, they have to do the wrong thing in order to be successful, which is not learning how to ride.
Yeah, and it sounds like this is a system that is set up to do the right thing for the horse as well, which I really like.
Yeah,
yes.
which, as we know, with recent controversies, has come out that the horse hasn't always been treated well in some. No. And we say it all the time. People pick on certain disciplines. It's true in every discipline.
It's true in every discipline.
It's true in every discipline. So we have to work on every discipline.
Yes.
Well, we don't allow any drugging at all. Like, see, this is something that blows my mind a little bit. Like we have such a huge problem in the horse. Yeah, we have such a big problem in worldwide. The equestrian disciplines are 1 inch before getting kicked out of the Olympics, and then here we are drugging the horses to ride little hunter classes. That doesn't sound good to me. So we don't allow any drugging, of course. And then also horses are limited. They're only allowed to do 3 classes per day. You cannot ride like 5, 6, 7 classes. It's 3 classes per day, and that's it.
Good for you. Well, David, it's the UDJC.org. If you want to find out more information, he now has shows in Texas, but as he said, developing shows all over the country, whether he wants to or not. I think that's going to be happening. I want to check in with you in about 6 months, and we'll see how it's going, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
The foundation of a horse's well-being is a strong hoof. That's why Calexiquin, the new daily hoof supplement from the makers of Cosequin, contains key ingredients such as biotin, amino acids, copper, and zinc to support hoof integrity, quality growth, strength, and durability. What sets Calexiquin apart from other hoof supplements is the inclusion of vitamin E and selenium, which provides antioxidant support and membrane stabilization. Put your best hoof forward with Calexiquin. To learn more, visit Calexiquin.com.
It's time for the weekly look at your Equestrian First World Problems. This ought to be good.
So, Equestrian First World Problems is a time of the week when we post in our Auditor room. Those are our super fans who pay as little as $3 a month to be included in that. You can find that by going to horseradionetwork.com and scroll down to the middle of the page. You'll see the Auditor banner. Click on that and you too can join the fun. But we ask them, what are their Equestrian First World Problems? Do they have any? Lisa?
Oh, yeah.
Are they all weather related? Are there any?
There are some that are not weather related. Most are, but yeah. Yeah. So should we just jump right in?
Yeah, let's just jump right in. Let's see what.
Okay. So Jamel says the sleigh horses arrived at my job this week, but I'm not allowed to go near them because they're hired from an outside company, so I have to admire them from afar.
I wonder what they are.
I don't know, but I think that would be really sad.
I didn't know there were sleigh horses specifically for that.
Yeah, and so in the notes, so she works building an ice castle, and they offer sleigh rides.
What?
Yeah.
We have somebody in the audience that builds ice castles?
I guess so.
All right, we need to hear from her. We need to get her on the show. I got to hear about him building ice castles.
That would be totally fun. Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah.
And she lives in Florida. That's the amazing part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said it's fun to build with ice, and her dogs get to go to work every day. Yeah. Yeah. We want to learn about that.
Jennifer's like looking at me like, she lives in Florida? No, that was a joke.
So Carrie says the saddle fitter gave me the thumbs down on my most comfy dressage saddle. So now it's back to my other less comfy dressage saddle again. We've all been there.
That's a first world problem right there.
Yeah, that is. So here's one. Danielle says, I got a new Bluetooth speaker for the barn for Christmas, but most of my favorite podcasts were on vacation, so I had to listen to music.
I had the same problem, actually. The podcasts I listened to were all on vacation, too.
Yeah.
And we can't say much, we were, too. So.
Yeah. I love Margaret's problem because I've been there myself. Yeah. The barn has been quiet because everybody's been on vacation for the holidays. I had lots of opportunities where I could have had the indoor arena all to myself. Of course, I had to work, and then I caught the stomach bug, and then I tripped while I was running, and I bruised my ribs. So I've only ridden twice in the past 2 weeks, and now everybody's back, and we have to share the indoor arena again.
Apparently, this stomach bug's no fun one this year either.
Oh, no.
The norovirus one is, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm going to PodFest next week. I'm guaranteed to be sick with something when I come out.
Of course you will.
Every time. You know what's so funny is right in 2020, PodFest was the last conference before COVID shut everything down the week after.
I remember that.
So we were worried about it all, just putting sanitizer on our faces, our hair, or, everything. And then the next day after we left, they closed the convention center and didn't open it for months. So,
wow.
And now here we are again.
Now here you are again. And so you've been the keynote speaker there for like a long time, but last year you did something different, right?
Yeah, and this year I'm doing an improv class. We're doing an improv class this year. So
fun, you'd be perfect.
Well, how improv helps. We did it once before and it was a standing room only audience, and there's another host who's an improv person as well. So we talk about how improv helps you be a better host and a better interviewer. And we do all kinds of fun games and stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's probably the most fun session at PodFest.
Oh, cool. Someday I want to go to PodFest.
Yeah, I think you would like it, actually. It's it's like anything else. You ask what's the best part of PodFest, it's the people you meet.
Yeah,
it's always the best
conference. Part. Yeah.
It's always HP. It's hanging out with the people.
It is. Yep. It is. So, okay. So Lisa says, I suddenly have 2 horses to ride since my mare is back in training, but my days aren't longer and I don't have less work to do and I need a new saddle, so I actually need to work.
Darn work.
I know. I love Meta's problem. Says, I just wanted one day during my holiday vacation to relax. So Sunday morning, I pulled my boots on and simultaneously pulled my back out. Oh, no. Guess who's relaxing now?
It's always, the accidents are the stupid things.
They are.
Oh, it's always this. Jennifer cut her finger pretty bad last week from the box of the aluminum foil.
Oh, yeah.
She went to get it down and it cut. I mean, it sliced her finger pretty good. She probably should have gotten a stitch or two.
But done that.
Oh, and she was so mad at that aluminum foil box. It went flying. We now store it in a different spot and she's not allowed near it. But it is. It's the stupid things.
It is. And it should come with some warnings, you think.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kayla says, my husband and I are going to Mexico in a few weeks, but now I have to explain to my non-horsey neighbor kid how to take care of both horses while we're gone.
She'll be worried the whole time. She will not. She will not stop fretting the whole time she's down there.
Exactly. So here's where our weather thing comes in. Okay, this is from Ursina.
Now you guys are lucky because Jamie doesn't do the weather ones, but Lisa and I feel you're going through it. We might as well acknowledge it.
It's very relevant. Yeah. So here we go. It's 18 below here, and that's before the wind chill. So other than feeding and general welfare checks, I haven't done anything with my horses in 2025.
No kidding. Where does she live?
and it said, and while it was pleasant weather over Christmas, I was sick with the flu, so it took me 3 days to groom 3 horses.
Oh, jeez.
And so here's the thing. If I had the flu, I don't think I'd groom any horses.
Yeah, that's true.
So kudos to her, really.
Especially with those temperatures.
Yeah. Paige says it's so much snow that we won't be able to fox hunt for at least a week, and it's way too cold to clip my horse during the downtime.
Jennifer would complain about that when she worked up in Myopia, too, when the fox hunts were canceled because of weather.
Yeah. So Taylor says it snowed enough for me to take my Mini out on a sleigh ride, but no, I had to get the flu and almost die.
Flu is common. I think we're getting more flu than we are weather in this batch.
I know. So Megan says, my trainer wants to try on my winter carrots this morning when I go for my lesson, but that means I have to take them off.
No, you don't. Who hasn't gone to work in their dirty carrots?
I know. Yeah. So
in here, we're living where I do. You see, that's all you see in grocery stores is breeches.
Oh,
that's
I'm
all
sure.
you see. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Either that or tight jeans and cowboy boots. You get one or the other here.
I go to the bank in here or the grocery store here in Ashland City in my breeches. People look at me like I'm naked.
Yeah.
Does she wear it?
Yeah. Here it's like no big deal.
Yeah. So Jenny's is my favorite. Says it was too cold to sweep the barn, so I decided to sweep the house. But now my husband saw me do that, so now he thinks I can do it every week.
Key, never let them know you can do anything.
Yeah.
That's how you cook one good meal, you're screwed.
You're done. And you got to. So I had a friend years and years ago, and she was a farmer's wife, and she said, I never learned to pluck a chicken because then I knew I'd have to do it every week.
That's right. Never learned to milk a cow. You don't have to milk a cow.
Then you don't have to do it. Don't have to do it.
We think we have it bad when we're trying to go away, like the earlier one that has to teach somebody to take care of their horses. But milking farmers, milk farmers, they're just. I had a bunch of them as clients when I was in the investment world, and I'd go there, and of course you had to meet them either at about 11 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night because the rest of the day was spent milking and feeding cows.
Oh yeah,
and they couldn't ever go anywhere.
When I was in college, I dated this dairy farmer, and I mean, he was up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it just controls your life.
Dating a dairy farmer because you can't go anywhere.
Particularly when you're in college,
Yeah, I mean, twice a day, and by the time they're done with the milking at night, they're tired. So,
yeah,
and stinky.
Yes, and it's always something with the cows, and you have a large amount of cows when you have a dairy farm, and there's always some serious health thing going on.
Yes.
And then they're calving all the time.
Yes.
So,
and that doesn't go well all the time either. So
yeah. He dumped me, and I was just devastated, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm like so glad.
Now you could have been stuck in that farm forever.
Oh my goodness.
And there's never room for the horses, so you'd have been out.
No, no. Horses were frivolous,
That's right. They weren't earning their keep. You're not keeping them around the farm.
Exactly.
That's funny. All right, one more.
One more. Okay. So Kathleen said, if air is essential to life, why is air so cold right now? It's not being friendly and it's not conducive to riding.
That's a good one to end with.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, where can people find you and your books?
They can find me at lisawysocki.com, and we're anywhere where books are sold, in stores and online, everywhere.
Very good. And, of course, you can find Horses in the Morning at horsesinthemorning.com. All of our past episodes, all 3,600 of them are there. And they've actually fixed it now so that on the web, I know you can only get, I think Apple limits to 1,000 episodes, which aren't too many of us that have that problem. But they limit it to 1,000 episodes. For old episodes, you have to go to the website. But they did fix it now. So when you go to the website and go to Horses in the Morning, scroll down the landing page there, you're going to see All Episodes button. Click that, and it takes you to a page that actually has all 3,600 episodes on one page.
Well, that's cool.
So you can scroll down to the beginning really easily and quickly. And what they did is they fixed the players. Those players have been broken, those old episodes, for years. And now they fixed them so you can actually listen to those old episodes. So if you want to hear really bad audio, and Jamie and I in the early days, that's how you can do it. You can go there. And don't forget, everybody, it's National Bean Day. That's right. It celebrates beans in all sizes, shapes, and colors. So have some chili or some rice and beans today. And we'll talk to you all back here on Wednesday. Tomorrow's the American Horse Council episode. And hang on, auditors. We're going to ask Lisa some questions that we usually give to guests and see how she answers them.